Breaking news. Putin will eventually run out of money to pay for his war. Vladimir Putin will hold a presidential election in March to show his people's support for the invasion of Ukraine by his regime 2 years ago. It would be foolish to undervalue his efforts over the past 2 years. Hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost, and millions more have been uprooted. They are mostly Ukrainians who have fled Russian missiles. However, there may be as many as 1 million educated Russians who have left the country due to the widespread fear of repression and mobilization. Russia's fledgling civil society has been stifled under Mr. Putin's rule, and the country has become more dependent on China and NATO. Russia's military budget is set to increase by 70% in 2024, making up a third of all expenditures and 6% of GDP. Even if fighting were to decrease in intensity, he has always portrayed his war in Ukraine as part of Russia's struggle against the West, so spending won't decrease regardless. Meanwhile, on the ground in Ukraine, optimism is lacking. The initial overwhelming excitement has faded in the face of the routine horrors of the trenches. People are avoiding drafts, the United States is demanding a larger Ukrainian army, and Kyiv is demanding modern weapons that will allow it to maintain a smaller force. Ground troops are looking for someone to blame, and corruption is often the easy target. President Zelensky's messianic tendencies have been growing. In a speech to the United Nations in September, he lambasted Poland, Ukraine's closest European ally, saying that they set the stage for the Moscow actor. It was unwise to accuse a country on the eve of Polish elections over a commercial dispute about grain imports when that country had spared no effort in helping Ukraine with weapons and refugees. When the former president of the European Commission claimed widespread corruption in Ukraine, Zelensky accused him of spreading Russian narratives. Corruption in Ukraine is a Russian propaganda tool, it would appear. Russia apparently uses elections as a ploy as well. President Zelensky recently stated that now is not the time for elections and that any talk of holding them is politically divisive, and manipulations which only Russia expects. Holding elections in a country fighting for its very existence is too difficult. Since Zelensky is unyielding on the border established in 1991, this conflict could go on indefinitely. Ukrainians are becoming more and more vocal in their nationalism. Russians are Asians, Alexei Danilov, the head of Security Council of Ukraine, declared. In contrast to them, we are unique. Our humanity is what sets us apart. One wonders whether this is the right kind of speech to secure weapons needed to retake Crimea. Even though Crimea is technically a part of Ukraine, the majority of its residents are of Russian ancestry. The political consequences of Ukraine's botched summer offensive are, however, on the horizon. Former presidential advisor Alexei Arestovich, brilliant and eccentric, who had an almost magical sway on the crowds in the first months of war, has just launched his presidential campaign with the previously taboo suggestion that Ukraine can forego occupied territories in exchange for joining NATO, and Ukrainian President Valery Zaluzhny has just admitted that the war is at a stalemate. Due to this defection, Zelensky made a frantic speech about divisive manipulations. Ukrainian democracy, bruised and battered, is slowly awakening to the unpleasant truth, while the Russian dictator lives in a parallel universe in which he is at war with the United States and is winning. Writer and journalist Yulia Latinina lost her jobs at the Echo of Moscow radio station and the Novaya Gazeta newspaper due to the conflict in Ukraine. She has been honored with the Defender of Freedom Medal from the United States Department of State.